Bonjour tout le monde, hey everyone, welcome to your summer revision course online with me, Katie, here in the Academy. I'm just going to, before we jump into what is on the board behind me, I just want to give you a little bit of insight into hopefully what we're going to cover with you guys with this course, and just to kind of give you an idea of maybe what you might want to be doing beforehand and where we're going to be hopefully afterwards. So obviously this course is designed for people going into 5th year or people going into 6th year, so there might be parts that at a couple of stages you might find, I suppose, a little bit challenging. There might be parts for others that might feel very easy and kind of a little bit more basic, but that's absolutely fine. We have to try and kind of cater for everyone with a course like this. So don't be intimidated at parts if you're a little bit overwhelmed. Don't, I suppose, disengage from the topics that you find a little bit easier. We're doing all of these things for a reason, and hopefully we're going to make sure that everyone is really well set for whatever, I suppose, whatever level of senior cycle French you are dealing with at the moment, okay? So just to get us kind of started, I'm going to come back to this in a second, but just so you know, there isn't a set of notes for what's on the board at the moment. I'm going to go through the notes that you're going to get with this course in a minute. But what we're going to be looking at after we go through the notes is just, I want to kind of show you what your end goal is going to be, whether that is, I suppose, going to be in 2 years' time, or if it's going to be at the end of the next academic year with regards to the Leaving Cert exam, how it's marked, and what we're actually going to be focusing on as a senior cycle student for the next few years, okay? So with regards to the notes, you guys have a few different sets. We're going to have one here which says on the outside of it, okay, it says that it's for 5th year. Obviously there's going to be parts of this for 6th years as well, but the title of it is La Grammaire Brochure numéro 1, so you're going to have a grammar booklet. You're also then going to have your set of notes that has question 2B, letters and emails, written on the outside of it, and then the twin set of notes for that are going to be your journal intime. That's going to be question 2A, so the two of these are going to cover the question 2 in its entirety. Then you're going to have a couple of sets of notes for the oral exam. We've got one here which is the oral exam, and it says questions to prepare on the outside. If you have looked through this and you're looking at this and you're very intimidated, please don't be. I'm going to talk you through the whole thing as we go through the course, but just to make sure that you have it. I actually don't have a set of them on me, but there's going to be one more set as well, which is going to cover a couple of the more basic topics and just kind of show you how to structure your answers and stuff. Mine are on my iPad, but the title of them is just going to be your oral revision booklet. Then you're going to have one on the opinion piece. That's going to be the biggest set of notes that you're going to have for this course. I think that's 83 pages, which is probably very intimidating for those of you that are going into 5th year. Please don't be, it's all going to be fine. And then the last one is just a small little set of notes. It doesn't even have a cover page on it because it's so small. It just says on the top of it, être jeune dans le monde moderne, which is being a young person in the modern world. That's going to cover us for the oral exam in a major way, but it's also going to help us tie into our opinion piece as well. So just to make sure that you have all of those ready to go, and we're going to be dipping in and out of a few different ones as we go through the course, okay? So the first one that I'm actually going to be using later on in a couple of minutes after we go through what's on the board is going to be the grammar booklet. So maybe before we go through what's on the board, if you need to pause the video for a second and just go and get that ready. If you want to, I suppose, rather than screenshotting the video or whatever way you're going to do it, I would actually recommend that you maybe just scribble this down on an A4 piece of paper, or if you have a hardback or something from 4th or 5th year, you might just want to scribble this down, even on the inside of the cover. It's nothing major, but it's just to have it as a little bit of, I suppose, background information for what you're going to be working towards over the next year or two. So what we've got so far up on the board, we've got your Leaving Cert exam, we've got 400 marks written underneath it. So whether you are going into 5th or 6th year, it's really, really important that you know, especially if maybe you struggle with French or you really love French and you want to do very well in it, no matter how good your French is, or no matter how easy you find it or how difficult you find it, overall what we're working towards as a senior cycle student is this Leaving Cert exam. So it's really important to understand this so that you know how to tailor your French, how to tailor your learning and your revision as you go through senior cycle. So what we've got so far, we've got the 400 marks and we've got the numbers 1, 2 and 3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through each section of your exam in chronological order. So what's going to be the first thing you do, what's going to be the second thing, what's going to be the third thing. So the first thing that we're going to do in 6th year that's going to be worth any sort of marks for our Leaving Cert exam is going to be everyone's worst nightmare, the oral exam, which the 6th years this year luckily got to dodge. Okay, but the oral exam is going to be, for higher level French, is going to be worth 100 marks. Okay, so it's actually a very big chunk of your exam. It's 25%. which can be a little bit intimidating, but let's not forget that when you're doing your Irish oral exam, that's worth 40%. So if you can deal with that, if you're well prepared for that, an exam that's worth 25% is not going to be any issue for you. So I've written down on my sheet here what I'm going to kind of talk you through with regards to the oral exam. We're going to have a chat about this more when we kind of get to the second segment of today's lesson, but just to give you some ideas, what we're going to be looking at in the second segment of our lesson today is going to be what the marking scheme looks like. So a lot of people don't know this, but there is actually a formal marking scheme for the oral exam. A lot of teachers will just tell you that it's, you know, a very kind of overall glimpse into your skill with the French language, that the examiner is not necessarily marking you against anything. They are. It's not as strict to say that the written paper or the oral exam, but there is a marking scheme that is going to be tailored. It's going to be, I suppose, used to scale your level of French, your knowledge of French, your pronunciation, all those kind of things. There is going to be something formally there so that you'll know in advance what you need to be working on. Okay, so the things that we're going to be looking at in this later on are going to be communication, pronunciation, grammar or structures, which is what they're called on the marking scheme, and vocabulary. And we'll have a chat about kind of how these are all weighted in the marking scheme, but they're the four main things that we're going to be looking at with regards to the oral exam. Okay, so we've got our oral exam. Now these are usually, just to give you a kind of time scale, usually held around Easter time in 6th year. The goal is that Easter happens after the oral exam so that you don't have to use Easter holidays to kind of have this, I suppose, this assessment looming over you. You don't have to be worrying about it for 2 whole weeks. But it depends on when Easter falls. Usually the State Examinations Commission will try and, I suppose, schedule it so that it is before Easter, but there have been times where it happens after Easter holidays as well, based on when Easter falls. But that's kind of just to give you a little bit of insight. Kind of March, April, that kind of time of the year is usually when the oral exams are held, okay? And what that is going to consist of is overall a 12 to 15 minute chat or conversation. And I'm just going to write this word here, we're going to talk about this later on. Le document, okay? So just for argument's sake here, this is all we need to know about the oral exam for now. So 100 marks out of 400 marks, 25% with these 4 aspects that are going to be used to assess you with your oral French. Okay, so we've got communication, pronunciation, grammar and vocab. So that's going to be the first thing. Now, please listen up, especially if you're going into 6th year, guys. It's so important that you know this. This has happened to many a student, and I do not want anyone making this mistake. Your oral exam is the first thing you're going to do that's going to be worth anything for your Leaving Cert exam. The second thing, if we were in a class now and everyone's getting a little bit nervous, being like, please don't ask me a question. If I said to you as a class, I said, what's the next thing you're going to do that's going to be worth anything? At least half of the class are going to, even if they don't say it, they're going to be thinking that it's going to be the oral exam. It's not. The second thing that you do for your Leaving Cert exam is actually your written paper. So, you'll understand what I mean when I say please don't do this, okay? Definitely do your written paper, but your second thing that you're going to be doing after your oral exam is going to be the written paper, okay? So obviously, we're looking at June. Usually kind of anywhere between the 8th and the 12th of June is when French tends to fall, but June of your Leaving Cert year, obviously, alongside everything else that you're studying. Now, what is the written paper worth? How is it marked, etc.? So, first thing is, right, so we have 100 marks already in the bag from the oral exam. The next thing then is that the written paper is going to be 220 marks at higher level. Okay, so it's going to be worth 55%. So, as I suppose, kind of as much as that sounds, it's also not, it's the biggest part of your exam, but it's not something that if you maybe struggle really badly with written French, it's not like it's 80% total or something, that you have other things you can use to boost your marks up if you find written French very hard. Now, what are those 220 marks made up of? So what you're going to start off with is going to be 2 long comprehensions in your written exam. Okay, they're going to be very different. The first one is going to be a little bit more I suppose, a little bit less intimidating. Well, from my own experience, that's what I would have found. Okay, so the first one is a little bit more modern. It's a little bit more, I would think it has much more of a connection to the actual syllabus that you cover for Leaving Cert French. That's the first one. The second one then, I suppose, is the older one. So the comprehension number 2 is older French. It is a little bit more literature based. It's a little bit more, not necessarily daunting, but it does have aspects to it that are a little bit stranger, and definitely if you struggle with French, you might find the second comprehension way trickier than the first one. But again, that's why we're going to be here. We're going to be really familiar with as much of the French language as possible, so we don't need to worry about this. Okay, so comprehension 1 is more modern. Comprehension number 2 is older French, and that's also going to use a different tense, which we call the passé simple, which is like the passé composé long, I suppose, like long lost cousin or something, but we don't need to worry about it too much for the time being. That's the first thing. There's going to be 2 long comprehensions. Then you're going to have question 1, which is obligatory. And this will make sense if you have a set of exam papers, or if you go onto examination study and have a look at an old paper, you'll just to kind of get an idea of what I mean by all of these. So you're going to have your 2 comprehensions. Then after that, it's going to go into written production. There's going to be question 1, 2, 3 and 4 from written production. Question 1, you have to do it. No matter how little of it you understand, or no matter how intimidated you are by it, you're going to have to do question 1. You can do question 1A or question 1B. For your question 1, I would recommend that you stick to what we call the opinion piece. Again, all of this will make a little bit more sense as we go through the course. Please don't worry about it yet. But question 1 is going to be your opinion piece. You also have the option of a story. I really try and recommend students to avoid writing a story because the grammar aspects in it are so much harder, because you really have to be able to nail all of your past tenses. So I would go with your question 1, do the opinion piece. So whether that's question 1A or 1B, it changes every year. And then you're going to have question 2, which we know from going through the titles of the notes, it's either a diary for question 2A or a letter or an email for question 2B. So that's nothing, I suppose, too major. So question 2, diary or letter. And then I'm running out of space here. Quelle surprise, what a surprise. Well, question 3 or 4 are, I suppose, very similar to question 1. They're just a little bit shorter. And just to differentiate between them, I tend to call questions 3 or 4 reaction pieces. They are essentially opinion pieces as well, just like question 1, but they're a little bit shorter and you're not expected to write as much. So for your written paper, we've got your 2 comprehensions, one that's a little bit more modern, one that's a little bit more, I suppose, old school, very traditional French. Then you've got your question 1, your opinion piece, which you have to do. That could be on anything from social media to the environment to veganism to beauty standards, anything. Then you're going to have question 2, your diary or your letter. What I would recommend students do is do the opinion piece for question 1, then do your diary for question 2. Try and avoid the letter if you maybe struggle a little bit with more formal French, but we don't need to worry about it too much. We're going to have them both covered by the end of the week. So we've got your opinion piece question 1, diary for question 2, and then you're going to choose one question from either 3A, 3B, 4A or 4B. So you do question 1 and then you're going to do 2 other questions out of the potential 6 that are there. So that's our written paper.